The Matriarch is a semi-modular analog synthesizer, which means without any patching, we can still get some sound out of it. And this is possible because there's an internal normal connection that's already pre-wired, hence the term semi-modular. So let's see how this pre-wired signal is set up. The heart of the synthesizer is this oscillator section. You get 4 of these oscillators. All are pretty much identical. The oscillator section is then routed through this mixer section to mix and balance the different levels of the oscillator. You also get a noise source here. And then the signal is routed to this dual filter section. The 2 filters can work in stereo, series, or parallel. There's a switch in the center here that lets you switch between the 3 modes, and we'll learn more about that in a later tutorial. After the filter, we get a potentially stereo output, which then can go into this dual VCA section. So voltage control oscillator, going into the voltage control mixer, to the voltage control filter, and finally routed to the voltage control amplifier section. After that, the signal is routed through the stereo delay. Now to introduce changes over time, we get this envelope generators section and this modulation section. You get 2 envelopes in this envelope generator section. The right one over here is hardwired to control the amplitude of the sound, and the left one modulates the filter cutoff. The modulation section is essentially an LFO, which can be used to modulate the pitch, the cutoff amount, or the pulse width amount. And this is hardwired to be controlled via the mod wheel here. The modulation section also has a noise output and a sample and hold output that can be used via patch cables. Aside from that, we have the utilities section, one on the left here and one on the right here. The one on the left has a mult with 4 jacks. It can be used to duplicate signals or even mix certain signals. Then there's this attenuator section, which can be used to attenuate signals and even invert signals. You get another identical attenuator right below. These 2 attenuators can be used independently or together, and I'll show you certain examples of that in a later tutorial. On the other utility section, you get the same mult, a single attenuator, and a standard LFO. And then finally on the left here, we have the Arp Slash Sequencer section. So it's an arpeggiator as well as a sequencer, depending on where this switch is set at. The sequencer is 4-note polyphonic, and you get up to 256 steps per sequence. 12 sequences can be created and stored on the synth. Alright, so that's the front panel of the Matriarch, and some basics on how the normal connection is set up. On the rear panel, we have some connectivity. This is the MIDI section where you get standard 5-pin MIDI in, MIDI out, as well as through, and also a USB MIDI. Next, we have some 1/8-inch inputs and outputs for the arpeggiator slash sequencer section. After that, the keyboard section. Here you can plug in a sustain or expression pedal, and you also get a variety of keyboard-related control voltage signals. Next is the stereo delay section. Here you can get the completely wet signal from the delay module. There's also a sync input and an input to control the feedback on the second delay. Next there's the audio section where you have ear rack level outputs. You have standard 1/4-inch outputs as well as a headphone output, and also an instrument in to process an external signal with the synthesizer. There's a headphone volume control over here, whereas the main out volume control is on the front panel. This headphone volume control is independent from the main out volume control. And lastly, let's not forget the global fine-tune control here. So this will globally change the pitch of all the oscillators on the synth. Alright, so that's a quick look at the Matriarch. In the next tutorial, let's learn what paraphony means on this synth.